World War II was not only a bloody event between Nazi Germany and the Allied forces, it was also the place of birth to a variety of new technology included in many war machines such as airplanes, tanks, and submarines of World War II. The more advanced tanks of World War II were the tank destroyers. These tanks were known for destroying heavy armored enemy tanks in the battlefield. One of the more developed tanks was the Jagdpanzer 38T, also known by the name of the Hetzer. It was developed in 1943 and was one of the more later stage tanks of World War II. This tank was known to be the best tank destroyers that served in the German army in World War II. This tank had a lot of advantages. For example, it had an excellent 75mm main gun that it could use against heavy armored tanks. In addition, it was very small, with only a height of a man. This was achieved by putting the turret at the front of the tank and not on the top. For this, the tank was also lighter, because it didn't have a turret, meaning that it was a very mobile and fast tank. However, because the tank did not have a turret on top of it, it only had a limited firing range for its main gun, meaning that it needed to position itself directly in front of the enemy tank to get a good shot on it. In total, this tank had a length of 6.27 meters, a width of 2.63 meters, a height of 2.10 meters. It had a weight of 16 to 17 tons, and it could have a speed of 24.8 kilometers per hour. The Messerschmitt 262 was the first turbojet used in combat. It was invented by the Nazis and was also called the Schwalbe and the Sturmvogel. This jet was powered by two 1,984-pound thrust junkers Jumo 004B turbojet thrusters. They could achieve a speed of 540 miles per hour, which are almost 870 kilometers per hour. This plane also had a good weaponry. It had four 30mm Mk108 guns. However, although it had a good weaponry, it proved no real effects in battle. This is proved by the fact that most engines failed after 12 hours. Also, from the 1,433 planes built, only 300 were used in battle. The ineffectiveness of this plane was also proved once when 37 Messerschmitts attacked a British bomber fleet. At the end of the battle, the British had only lost 1% of the planes, while the German had lost all of its Messerschmitts. Nazi Germany also invented the first jet-powered bomber of the world, called the Arado AR-234, also known as the Blitz or the Lightning. This plane was invented in 1944. Its main advantage was its speed of 742 km per hour, achieved by each two Junker 004B turbojet engines. With this speed, the bomber was even faster than the British interceptors. This was proven on December 24, 1944. 9 bombers were each equipped with one bomb, and they needed to attack a rail hub in Liege, eastern Belgium. All of the aircraft returned safely, because they were faster than the enemies. However, likewise like the normal jet, this bomber could also have technical difficulties, for example a lack of movability at low speeds. To ensure the right use of a bomb, automatic aiming devices such as the Norton M9 were invented in World War II. These computers evaluated the data of wind speed, direction and height of the plane to calculate the right angle at of which to fire the bomb. Through this, not as much bombs as before were wasted. During World War II, the first helicopter of the world was invented. This helicopter was called the Flettner FL-2A2. It incorporated the vertical takeoff and landing technology, short VTOL. This technology enabled a climbing speed of 8 meters per minute and a general speed of 93 miles per hour, which are approximately 150 kilometers per hour. The helicopter was used by the Germans as a scout unit to spot submarines. The footage you see now on screen shows some of the movements the helicopter could perform, such as landing, quick takeoff, gliding, flying in squats, fast climbing, turning, and even doing a loop in the air. During World War II, the concept of using plastic explosives was developed. On the screen you can see the first plastic explosive named Noble 808. In addition, the plastic explosives were insensitive to weather or water, and they were used for sabotage by the British Operations Executive. The explosives could be molded into shape. Also, they needed no metal containers, meaning that the metal needed before for explosives could now be used for other machinery, such as tanks or airplanes. A technological advanced warhead in World War II was the HESH warhead, also called High Explosive Squash Head. When hitting the enemy tank, the warhead would deform and so create a larger radius for the explosion, which would send a shockwave through the hull of the tank. The second advanced warhead created in World War II was the HEAT, High Explosive Anti-Tank Warhead. This warhead used the Monroe effect, meaning that it would have so much speed when hitting the enemy tank that it would have an optimal penetration. One of the first uses for the high explosive anti-tank warhead was in the bazookas. These bazookas were used as the first anti-tank missiles. The V-1 was also known as the bus bomb and the FE-103. This bomber was the first automatic aircraft. At the nose of it included a compass, and it used a technology to navigate itself in the skies. Although these weapons were really good at long ranges, they took a lot of money to produce. For example, only one bomb costed 5,000 Reichsmark. WW2 was the first ballistic missile used in battles. It had an attack range of 200 miles, it was 50 feet long, and it had a weight of 12 tons. When attacking, it would launch itself into the outer orbit of our Earth before falling back again on its enemy target. This weapon had a significant impact on the future of the human race because its technology was later on used in the astronaut rockets which were sent to the moon and into outer space. The radar was invented at the start of the war. It was using radio waves to detect objects. This technology became more advanced during the war. It was developed in laboratories, for example in the radiation laboratory at MIT. The radar had a major advantage. It made surprise attacks from enemies impossible, because you could see the enemies when they came. In terms of usage, the radar had a lot of uses. For example, it could track incoming attacks from the air. It could also guide bomber attacks. It set also the foundation for future television, radio and GPS. Tiny radar computers were also set into artillery shells so that they would only explode when they are near aircraft, like you can see on the footage now. Also, the medical technology developed. For example, penicillin was developed to also treat the diseases gonorrhea and syphilis. Another medical technique that developed was the technique of blood transfusion, so to transfuse blood from one person to another using a connection of tubes. During World War II, also agricultural technology developed. The most important technological invention was the invention of the combine harvester. This harvester had a self-propelled reaper thresher, so it was easier to collect food. In total, this machine was 16 feet wide. The effect of this invention on the war was clearly that it was easier to collect food through the process of using machinery as a harvester. This machinery made it possible to collect a greater amount of harvested plants which could be used to create more food, and food was rare at the time. The Enigma machine was developed by Arthur Scherbius. This machine was used by the Germans for coded communication. When an operator wanted to send a message to another receiver, he wrote the message and then he manipulated it by using the 3 to 5 notched wheels. The receiver would then need to know the positions of the wheels to view the message. If the receiver would not know the correct position of the wheels, the message would not be decoded and it would make no sense to the receiver. With this method, it was easier for the German generals to communicate with each other, while the Allied forces did not know what they were saying, until finally the code was decoded by the Allied forces.